What a day. What a start to the day. Let's start. Hey guys, sorry. I guess I hit the stream button and I'm trying to get my day together here. But anyway, thanks everybody for showing up. Good morning. Thanks for tuning into the Prion show that we did yesterday and the Leyline show before that. There were a few of you who were curious about what happens when a globe Earth ley lines are applied to the plane Earth. So tomorrow's show, hopefully today I'll be getting some balloons in the mail and I'm going to do an experiment and I'm going to film it and then I'll basically upload that to the live show tomorrow so you guys can see exactly what happens. I can already conceptualize what's going to happen in my head, but I want to show it to you guys. Some of you are like visual people who need to see something before you believe it. I had a few people challenge me, and that's okay. We're here to learn, aren't we? And we're not here to... I like it when you guys double check my work. Every once in a while, you'll find a small error. Usually does not affect the overall meaning of a decode. But in this case, we're going to do a visual experiment because a few people challenged me and they said the pentagram won't be there. Well, the pentagram will always be there. Doesn't matter what shape of the Earth it is. What these controllers have done is they've created curved ley lines to reinforce the ball Earth. And so what happens is if you completely dismiss their ley lines, you're feeding right into what they want you to do. And that is to dismiss their lines of death. They want you to write it off as nothing to see here, move along. And this is where the plane Earth and globe Earth debates can be toxic because people start giving people ultimatums and they start saying, oh, that channel believes that the Earth is still a globe. That channel believes the Earth is flat. I've had people unsubscribe from this channel because they know that I believe that the Earth is generally flat. And so now you know what the problem is. That has to be of the enemy because the enemy is of division. Yes, it's important to talk about, but as soon as you start discrediting people wherever they are in their walk who have not come to certain realizations like we have, because we look at the eyeball anatomy Earth model, right? Which seems to match up with the flat Earth model. And I'm going to call it the plane Earth for the intents and purposes of this show. And many of you realize, wow, it's a microcosm. The inner anatomy of the eye is a microcosm for the world and the universe and heaven. It's a metaphor. It looks exactly like what it would be like. And so we've come to that realization. But the minute you start, saying, I'm not going to follow that channel because they're pushing the globe Earth lie. Well, the thing with the globe and the plane is it's, for some people in their minds, it is a very subjective thing. Okay, no matter how many facts we come up with, in their mind, it's subjective. Okay, until their eyes are opened. So it's a walk, isn't it? It's a walk, and you have to meet people where they're at in their journey. And this is why you don't see me condemning channels because they believe in the globe, or even channels that believe in NASA. I mean, there are a lot of people out there that still believe in NASA. Well, they're on the walk. They have to figure it out. Elon Musk went a long way in continuing the space deception, didn't he? Because he was kind of like us. Most of us know that he's not on our side, but a lot of people don't in the partially awake community. So we have to meet those people where they're at and allow for their feelings and not like hit them over the head with the plain Earth bat or focus on that instead of focusing on the gospel, for instance. Thinking that is the seminal, issue that has to be debated and has to be proven. Yes, it's exciting. I get it. I've been there, you guys. When we first started this channel, I would get over myself. I would trip over my own self because I was so excited with the information and I thought the world had to see this information. And, you got to take a step back and Hold your horses, as they always say, right? So what I'm going to do in tomorrow's experiment, I'll just go ahead and leak it out now. I'm going to draw the pentagonal ley lines that are on the United States on an inflated balloon that has the continents already printed on it. They have actually balloons you can buy with the Earth printed on the balloon. Then I'm going to deflate the balloon, and I'm going to cut the bottom off of the balloon. So remember, I've told you, all of the Earth's continents, most of them are above the equator, right? They're all in the northern hemisphere. So if you just cut that away and then spread that over either a flat plate or a flat piece of board, you're essentially going to see the plain Earth. This is why I tell people it's almost the same thing. It's just what it's wrapped around is the difference. The continents are all there. They're all going to be in their same place. You just set the center as the North Pole. That becomes your center, and you pull everything away from the outsides around the plate or the square board, whichever one you believe in. I think it's probably a circle because the Bible says circle of the earth. Other people believe it's like a square because of the pillars of the earth. See, if we start arguing about stuff like that, what that does, it just divides people, okay? Everyone should be able to have their opinion as long as that opinion doesn't contradict the gospel and contradict Jesus and the fact that he came here as our Savior. We should all be able to have opinions about this stuff. And as long as it's not New Age or occult, those are the things that we're supposed to stay away from, right? Now, let's get into the Smurfs, because that's why most of you came here today. This is fascinating. Through the bubble chamber, through the veil. What am I talking about? Through the water portal. This is Gargamel, a CERN experiment. This is out of Wikipedia here. The Gargamel is spelt slightly differently, but from the same source, as we'll get into today. Gargamel is this green chamber tucked way back behind in this corner. You can barely see the tip of it poking out. It looks like it has two eyes on the front of it, almost. And this is the bubble chamber. Now, why do I call this through the veil, through the water portal, through the bubble chamber? Well, this Gargamel CERN experiment passes a beam through a fluid-filled chamber. Then it examines the bubbles. Well, what's this about? Passes a beam through a water, well, it's actually freon, but it's a liquid chamber, and examines the bubbles. Now, this is the real Gargamel, and he liked to pass beams through water and bubbles to open portals to Earth. Now, let's break down all the symbolism in this, because this is just spooky and weird. Of all places to find deep truth, we find it in the Smurfs. Now, it's funny. I found myself giggling throughout this study that I did on this to bring out this information. But it's actually not so funny, because the ramifications of what's really going on here is pretty profound. The CERN experiment, according to Wikipedia, is based on a French book series called Gargantua and Pentagram. This is it here. Gargantua and Pentagram. Now, this is from, I don't know what, I get my eras messed up, but this is from the 1500s. So what is this? Is this the, actually, yeah, was this the 1500s is the vintage era, or is this the classical era, or before that? I don't know. But needless to say, this book series is all about the origin of giants. It tells adventures of two giants, Gargantua and his son Pentagram. The narrative begins with the origin of giants, Pentagram's particular genealogy, and his birth, his childhood is briefly discovered or covered before his father sends him away to the universities. Now, I hope you're sitting down for this, because Gustave Dior was an illustrator in the 1800s edition. This has been around for a very long time. Gustave Dior. And he, of course, is a very satanic artist who drew lots and lots of pictures of the devil. And he drew a picture of Gargantua. Let's take a look at that. Who does that look like? It is a very demonic looking clown. Now, I found a PDF file of the book. This is it right here. This is actually book 1. There are several books in the series. I'll put links to all this for those of you who want to dig deeper. Remember, Gargamel scrambled is Maga-grel. Let's get into this. So, Gargamel appears in book 1. Who is Gargamel in this series of books? Remember, there's Gargamel, there's Gargantua, and Pentagram are the main characters. Well, Gargamel is a pregnant mother. Guess where they found her? Under a willow tree. What? Whilst they were on this discourse and pleasant tattle of drinking, Gargamel began to be a little unwell in her lower parts, whereupon Gargantua arose from off the grass and fell to comfort her very honestly and kindly, suspecting that she was in travail, and told her that it was best for her to sit down upon the grass under the willows. Now, Gargamel gives birth to a giant, Gargantua. Are you getting chills yet? Because I am. Because this is essentially the story of the fallen angels before the flood. And women of earth bearing giants. Of course, they don't start out giants, but they grow up to be giants. You can't make any of this up. But here's the weird thing. When Gargantua is born, he is born out of her ear. Now, I couldn't quite figure out what this meant. Oh no, that's a different story. Hold on. It says Minerva was born of the brain even through the ear of Jove. Let me go back here because I think they talk about him being born out of the ear as well, but they don't describe it as an ear, but you get the gist of it. Let's go back here. This is unbelievable. Now, Gargamel ate the entrails of an animal in this story. They're called tripe. And this is what basically starts her giving birth to Gargantua. Let's try to find in the story here when exactly Gargantua is born. Now you can imagine, I'm researching this and I'm going nuts. Like I want to do a show on it that day. But God's like, hold your horses, get through all the information, and let's do this justice. Because this is very important information. You're going to see how I tie all this in together in a second here, as soon as we find the actual part where Gargantua is born. Oh, let's go to Gargamel. That's how we find it. So here's the story. Gargantua was the husband of Gargamel, was a good fellow in his time, notable jester. So he was a clown. He loved to drink neat. I don't know what that is. There's a lot of terminology here I'm not going to recognize. This is from the 1500s. As much as any man that was in the world, and would willingly eat salt meat. To this intent, he was ordinarily well furnished with gammons of bacon, both of Westphalia, Mayence, and Bayonne, with store of dried neats' tongues, plenty of links, chitterlings, which is entrails, and puddings in their season, together with salt beef, mustard, good deal of hard roes of powdered mullet called botargos. In the vigor of his age, he married Gargamel, daughter to the king of the Parpions, a jolly pug and well-mouthed wench. They call her a pug. I don't know what that is. If she's actually really a dog, I don't know. But then they do it, and then Gargamel eats a huge deal of tripes and is fully pregnant with Gargantua. Now, as you're reading this story, try to put yourself in the position of this story to figure out how this applies to biblical themes, because that's what this is all about. Gargantua was born in a strange manner. This is the section I was looking for. Whilst they were on this discourse and pleasant tattle of drinking, Gargamel began to be a little unwell in her lower parts, whereupon Gargantua arose from off the grass and fell to comfort her very honestly and kindly, suspecting that she was in travail, and told her that it was best for her to sit down upon the grass under the willows. Now, for those of you that have not been following the channel and don't know what that means and why I paused when I talked about the willows, is because we had unlocked the code of Willow and Artemis and baldness. Because Artemis, according to ancient legend, was found by two brothers under a willow tree. One of the brothers' names was Alopicus, from which the word alopecia came. So we realize that alopecia had something to do with willow trees and Artemis. Well, Artemis likes to poke people with things. She brings disease and brings death, just like her twin brother, Apollo, who ran our country for 4 years in his Apollo penthouse and poked people with things which caused baldness. Now, the controllers knew that a lot of people were going bald from this, so they staged a little stunt, didn't they? With Will Smith and Bald Willow and Jada Pinkett to push their medication that cures alopecia. And to show you how far back this goes, Will Smith was in Wild Wild West, and everybody remembers the buzzsaw scene where the tops of the crops are cut off as they're chasing Will Smith in Wild Wild West. Welcome to the Matrix. Literally, everything means something. You just have to have eyes to see it. Now, what are these things that we find, these synchronicities? Well, this is the glory of God. This is how he speaks to us. This is how he shows us things. This is how we know he's real. Be still and know that he's God. When you're still, you notice everything, don't you? You take a minute from the beast system that has you consumed in the Matrix, and you open your eyes to the synchronicities. And that's what we do on this channel. All of you contribute something at some point over the years that has been a puzzle piece to all of this. Now, let's keep going with this. So, Gargamel is about to give birth to Gargantua. Now remember, Gargamel of the Smurfs also essentially gave birth to Smurfette. She started out as a golem, basically a pile of clay with a spell cast upon it to bring it to life. And then later, she was transformed into a Smurf by Papa Smurf. Now let's keep reading here. Because she was very shortly to see young feet, and that therefore it was convenient she would pluck up her spirits and take a good heart of new at the fresh arrival of her baby, saying to her withal that although the pain was somewhat grievous to her, it would be but of short continuance, and that the succeeding joy would quickly remove that sorrow in such sort that she should not so much as remember it, on with a sheep's courage. Now remember, sheeps get sheared, and that's the other part of the secret of the willow, is that the whole thing about the silence of the lambs was right out of the Bible. Because there's a verse in the Bible that says, just as a sheep sits silent as it is being sheared. And I can't remember the rest of the verse, but that's what that was about. And so her mentioning the sheep's courage in this instance, after she's sitting under a willow tree which represents hair, there's a connection there, isn't there? Let's keep reading here. As she's giving birth to Gargantua. Dispatch this boy, and we will steadily fall to work for the making of another. Ha, said she, so well as you speak at your own ease, you that are men. Well then, in the name of God, I'll do my best, seeing that you will have it so, but would to God that it were cut off from you. What? Said Gargantua. Ha, said she, you are a good man indeed, you understand it well enough. What, my member? Said he. Now this is supposed to be a comedy, is the way that they frame this in history. But there are a lot of Christian references in this writing. They mock Christians. They mock Hebrews. It's all in this story. Let's keep reading. By the goat's blood, if it please you, that shall be done instantly. Cause bring hither a knife. Alas, said she, the Lord forbid, and pray Jesus forgive me. I did not say it from my heart. Think of the blasphemy here. They're talking all about God, and she's giving birth to a Nephilim giant. Therefore, let it alone, and do not do it, neither more nor less any kind of harm, for my speaking so to you. But I am like to have work enough to do today, and all for your member, yet God bless you and it. Courage, courage, said he, take you no care of the matter. Let the four foremost oxen do the work. I will let you go drink one whiff more, and if in the meantime anything befall you that may require my presence, I will be so near to you. So let's keep going down here, because this is really hard reading, isn't it? To the part where she actually gives birth. Look at, they're talking about the scripture, the Holy Scripture, God, the Bible. And, oh, okay, here we go. So they're talking about how different people were born from different parts of the body. Minerva, born of the brain, even through the ear of Jove. Adonis was born from the bark of a myrrh tree. Castor and Pollux of the duge of that egg. So it was an unnatural birth. And it says here, by this inconvenient, the cattle dawns of her matrix were presently loose. Now, when they talk about the matrix, this is biblically the womb. Now, I know there's a lot of people that believe the matrix was never in the Bible, but I believe it was. I believe something has altered our perceptions and our memories of what's in the Bible. Remember, we've just gone through a huge deja vu and forgetting ritual. The controllers have put something upon us that has made us alter our perception of reality. We've gone through a portal. And so things aren't the way we remember them. But here it is from the 1500s, and they were using the word matrix from the Bible as her womb was loosed, or her matrix was loosed, through which the child sprang up and leaped, and so entered into the hollow vein. did climb by the diaphragm even above her shoulders, where the vein divides into two, and from thence taking his way towards the left side, issued forth at her left ear. So yes, the giant was born out of her left ear. Let's keep going here. I want to look up some of the mockery here. Here they talk about the Hebrews. Because it was the first word after his birth his father had spoke in imitation and at the example of the ancient Hebrews. So they're talking about how he spoke when he was born. Here again, they mentioned the Hebrews. There's a lot of mockery in this story. Now, for those of you that just showed up, why are we covering this story? Well, this is the story of Gargamel, who gave birth to a giant. And there was a CERN experiment named after this story specifically. And the Smurf's Gargamel was also named after this story. So essentially, this is a comedy about how the Nephilim giants were born out of the women of Earth. Let me check in with you guys. We'll keep going with this. Wow. Right? Welcome, everyone, to the channel. We are live. Let's see what your comments are while I sip some coffee here. Kind of had a late start today. Sorry for keeping you guys for a minute. Ooh, yuck. Coffee's cold. Looks like bad translation. That's just the way they talked back then. Yes, it was originally written in French. And very hard reading, but we can definitely get the gist of what's going on here. Now, many of you will remember the movie Interstellar because we decoded it a couple of times, didn't we? And what was the name of the black hole in the movie Interstellar? Let's see who gets it first. All right, let's see. Uh-oh. Get kicked off. Drop some people. Anytime you see the number watching drop off, usually they're capping the stream. So what was the name of the black hole in Interstellar? And we'll keep going with this decode. I'm just going to pound this coffee because it's really cold. It's gross. So, there you go. Donna got it. Gargantua. Believe it or not, that movie, Interstellar, with Matthew McConaughey, had lots and lots of disclosure in it. It talks about the end of the world where crops won't grow. Why? Because they get a fungus. There's a fungus apocalypse. So they start looking to wormholes that are opening up and they try to pass through them. One of those wormholes is Gargantua from this very story. A black hole portal named in the film Interstellar that originated from this very story. What are black holes? It's a funnel or a spiral. It's basically the devil's rendition of God's portals. Just like the womb and birth canal are portals. They're funnels that spin. And children are born out of them. Okay? Now, for those of you that are new to the Smurf Matrix, the word or name Smurf originated from the word Strump. Literally has Trump's name in it. And that was the original name in French. It wasn't until later it was translated into Smurfs. So literally there were these little blue creatures called Strumps. I couldn't even believe that when I saw that. And what is this about? Well, if you think there's absolutely zero connection between Smurf and the Trumps, go to Trump Jr.'s Instagram and watch all the times that he calls his children and his family Smurfs. Now, the Gargamel of the Smurfs must have originated from these classic books. It just had to have been, because the author was French for the Smurfs, and the author was French for Gargantua and Pentagram stories, and so on and so on. This was a pretty major set of works that a lot of people used over the years and over the centuries. Now, let's get back to the CERN Gargamel bubble, because they absolutely admit that they named this after the stories. Let me show you that for those that want to see the proof. The name itself is derived from a 16th century novel, The Life of Gargantua and Pentagram, in which the giantess Gargamel is the mother of Gargantua. So there you go. Now this is the actual chamber. They removed it and set it aside and set it up on these blue blocks. Now what does this look like to you? What does this look like to you? To me, this looks like the Smurfs holding up a giant mushroom. Look at the colors. The Smurfs holding up a giant mushroom. And this is, of course, on a spiritual level. These pillars don't actually look like Smurfs, but they're blue. And the Smurfs lived in a mushroom world, didn't they? The colors of the actual bubble chamber are mushroom colored, because mushrooms have this color on the outside and white under the top. And we've all seen the images. Let's see if we can find some images of this. There you go. This will give you kind of a snapshot into what I'm talking about here with the coloring of this. I mean, look at this. This is almost the exact color of Gargamel, a CERN experiment on that mushroom. So that you know I'm not like stretching of any of this. I don't even know what they call that color. Maybe like a mauve. That's like a mauve, I think. Color. This color, whatever that is. It's like a mauve. Here's one. Here's the exact colors right there. Smurfs holding up a mushroom. Let's go back to the image here. Oh, here this one looks same color. It's not quite orange, it's off orange. Now, hopefully you're beginning to see a picture emerge from all of this research. Because in the experiment, they shot a beam through a Freon-filled tank to see if they could detect a certain kind of bubble, which would indicate a new type of particle. So they were searching for particles. Just like Gargamel was searching for particles. He had an obsession with the Smurfs and was always chasing them like they were little particles. With his beam opening portals. All of this is metaphor, you guys. All of it. Now, this is Bubble Smurf. Because I was like, okay, maybe there's some stories about bubbles in the Smurf universe. And this is, here you can see the original name of the Smurfs. So you know I'm not making that up. It says Trump in the middle there. And this is this male Smurf, and he makes bubbles. He's part of the Smurf village. He looks like he lives in a bubble too. Look at his house. It's a giant bubble. He just blows bubbles all day. So there's something to this. Now, here's the actual Gargamel experiment. Here's some images from it. And here you see what they're looking for. Gargamel Bubble Chamber, Icarus Electronic Chamber. Oh, they're comparing the two. So here's Gargamel. So this is what the images they were seeing, these weird bubbles, and they're looking for a specific type of bubble. I don't really see anything there, but apparently they do. And you see other bubbles on here, but they're pointing to a specific bubble. And then they compare it to Icarus Electronic Chamber, which doesn't really show anything here, hardly. They say they found something there. I don't see anything there. But they're showing you the experiment here. Now, were there any episodes about Bubbles and the Smurfs? Absolutely, there were. Bubble, Bubble, Smurfs in Trouble is the name of the episode. It is season 2, episode 34, and it first aired on November 13th, 1982. What's it about? Well, bubbles. I've got the episode pulled up here. I'm not going to play much of it. It's actually on YouTube. This is it right here. And, of course, one of the Smurfs is searching for mushrooms. So this represents the mushroom chamber, doesn't it? The bubble chamber. And he runs into a Sprite. And the Sprite is running around putting dew on things. Let's play part of this here.
I wish Papa Smurf had sent some other Smurf to find his special mushrooms. Telling what you could smurf into around.
So obviously this Smurf is scared. He's like, I think he's called like Scary Smurf, Scaredy Smurf. That's what his name is, Scaredy Smurf. And he gets this magic wand from the water sprite, who is basically going around seeding dew into nature.
This is the way we drop the dew, do the drop. This is the way we...
There's the sprite here. What is he doing? Dropping the dew. Now, many of you have remembered throughout the years, I've told you that CERN and particle accelerators had something to do with the dustification of the towers. I told you that the two were linked, that Brookhaven was in proximity to the towers, and it must have had something to do with it. We did alignments. We showed you the trajectory and how two parts of the Brookhaven National Laboratory actually pointed directly to the towers. There are several elements around the ring of the Brookhaven Collider, and two of them lined up perfectly pointing to the tower. And then, of course, I'm going to type in the actual zip code of Brookhaven. Looky here, a zip code that was established long before the towers fell. But the zip code encodes the day that they opened in 1973 and the day that they fell on blind 11. This is the actual zip code of Brookhaven, encoding the opening and destruction. Let that sink in for a minute. Now, we've covered all this over the years, but we're putting it all together because the disclosure through the Smurfs is literally off the rails. So, the fact that this Sprite is dropping dew, which is a directed energy weapon, is telling. So he's enclosing everything in a bubble of dew. And hopefully now you're seeing the connections The wand makes the impenetrable bubbles that can only be broken by the wand. Remember, Gargamel has the wand. Now, Gargamel ends up stealing the wand after Scaredy Smurf gets the wand. Let's fast forward through some of this.
Oh, never mind. Dusk.
And I can smurf out of this creepy place.
What?
Yikes!
Oh, whoever you are, help! Please, I won't hurt you.
So the sprite gets freaked out, puts himself in a bubble, and drops the wand outside the bubble, so he's stuck inside the bubble. So Scaredy Smurf picks up the wand, frees the sprite, but then he keeps the wand.
I'm only a water sprite. I just dropped the tube.
Well,
Oh no, that won't work. Relax. Don't be afraid.
nothing can get to me in here.
So Scaredy Smurf then becomes emboldened. The sprite gives him the wand as a thank you, lets him borrow it for one day. And Scaredy Smurf goes through back to the village of the Smurfs and shows everybody how great this wand is. But Papa Smurf is very skeptical of this. It's too much power, and he wants him to give it back to the sprite. Then a giant comes along. Here's your giant story, right? Now this giant's name is not Gargantua, but he is a giant nonetheless. They call him like a troll in the episode. He comes, gets the wand, steals it, and ultimately Gargamel enters the episode. He steals the wand from the giant, and hopefully you're seeing the continuity here. And why the CERN scientists named the magic wand the beam-powered bubble chamber Gargamel. And that brings us to the Smurfs movie, Part 3. This is Stormy Smurfs.
They were right. This Gargamel character, he's real. And he's headed this way.
This is Stormy Smurf. Smurf Stormy Daniels, played by Michelle Rodriguez in Smurfs The Lost Village. She's the one that plays this. Many of you recognize her from the series Lost. She plays a cop in the series Lost, stranded on an island. But she plays the voice for Smurf Stormy Storm Daniels. Now, at first I didn't see a connection. But then I looked at their birthdays. Ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. Michelle Rodriguez, 7/12/78. Stormy Daniels, 3/17/79. So they're born 1 year apart, 78 and 79. But more importantly, 3/17 is 1 day off from 7/12 in reverse. Here, let me type that out for you so you guys can get a visual. This is crazy. So they're born 1 year apart. There has to be a connection. Smurf Storm, Stormy Daniels, come on. Watch this. 3/17/7/12. So they're born 1 year apart, and their birthdays are 1 day apart in reverse. See this? 3/17/7/12. Unbelievable. So what's happening here? Well, let's go back and look at Smurf Storm's role in Smurfs 3. What did she do? She outed Smurfette as the enemy created by Gargamel, created by Maga-grel.
Oh no! See, I told you! Put a cork in it, Smurfette. The way I see it, you and your little boyfriends led him straight to us.
So she's calling out Smurfette and as basically trapping the Smurfs, being a double agent for Gargamel. Almost exactly what's happening in real life. Wow. So, here are the birthday comparisons here. 317712 in reverse. They're 117 days apart in their birthdays for Michelle Rodriguez and Stormy Daniels. I guess you could say the 17 is a Q, but I won't make that stretch. Tomorrow, hopefully we'll do the experiment on the Earth, the shape of the Earth, the ley lines. What will happen to ley lines when the Earth is made flat? That's what our show will be on tomorrow. Let's go into the chat. Wow, this has to be supernatural manifestation. No one person could have figured all this out. No one person could have orchestrated all of this, right? This is just crazy. All right, I'm in the chat with you guys. Yeah, wow is right. Right, Lori? Crazy. So, let's break this down one level further. What is CERN doing? Well, they're doing what everyone has already been saying they've been doing. They're trying to open portals, just like Gargamel opened portals. For those of you that have followed the Smurf story. And all of this relates back into Trump and his family. They know something. They have some kind of MAGA witchcraft. They have some kind of thing that they're doing that they have knowledge of, some kind of power that basically is causing everyone, it's basically done something. It's opened some kind of portal. Now, I have my own personal beliefs. I believe that this technology was actually used to take down the towers, and I believe that the Trump family knows exactly what that technology is. Now, I can't prove that, but calling down fire out of heaven in the sight of men is a scripture that we all know about. Who can make war with the beast? So, yes, we'll do the image tomorrow. Take care of that tomorrow. I'm actually excited about that. Like I said, the balloons are in the mail. They're coming from Amazon, and I'll open those up and I'll film the whole thing with my GoPro and then upload it and we can watch it together. Show you guys a little bit of the new place, the project that I've been working on. So tomorrow will be an exciting show. All right. Time travel. Yeah, to be honest, the lines don't change much. They curve a little bit, but the star is still the star. It just gets smashed at the top. That's all that happens. It's still a star, and it still has the same lines. Now, we already know that the controllers like to alter the science, don't they? They tweak it. They tweak the science to fit the lie, don't they? So, they did it with the trip to the moon. They have an explanation for everything. It's like they've been given some kind of secret book to come up with a cover story and lie for every single angle plausible to lie their way to the moon. Same goes with pilots, because you think, oh, someone's a pilot who's flying around up in the air their whole life. Wouldn't they know? Wouldn't they know? Well, if they tweak the GPS signals, all they got to do is enter. Okay, let me give you an example. We know that they're altering time. How do you know this? Well, if you take an electronic device that's very, very accurate, like your car's time on the LED readout, why is it that the clock in your hand on your phone keeps changing from the time in your car? So what they do is they change the, what's the word I'm looking for? Not the baseline. They change the actual I don't even know the words right now. And then nobody knows anything's changed because it's the normal, right? This happens to me every few months. I look at the clock on my time in the car, which is completely accurate because it's hooked to a battery and it's electronic, but it's not networked, is it? You know, there's all these stories about all these movies talking about being networked versus being not networked. And I remember in the Battlestar Galactica reboot, they were showing how Galactica was able to escape from the Cylons because that particular ship was not networked. And therefore, the Cylons could not incorporate their virus into the ship. So the Battlestar Galactica was able to escape. It was the only ship that did. All the other ships got destroyed because they were networked. And the virus took over and they were helpless, sitting ducks. And the Cylons destroyed them. If you want to binge watch a great series, even if you're not into science fiction, take a look at the reboot for Battlestar Galactica. That will blow your mind. We've done a couple decodes on it. So anything that's not networked, for instance, your car, I have a 1982. It's not networked, obviously. It's not connected to the network. So therefore, my clock says a certain thing on my car clock. Well, over time, all the network devices alter the time by just a few minutes. It's not much. It's a few minutes. And therefore, every so often, you have to fix the time in your car. You have to up it a couple minutes, right? So what's that about? Now, I'm going to leave you guys with one last thing, and we can talk about this tomorrow. Because in the morning is when God speaks to you. And I've personally experienced this pretty much the last 10 years of my life while on this journey on this channel. I want you to keep a notepad by your bed. And as you're beginning to wake up in the mornings, I want you to take very special note of the voice in your head, helping you to solve different issues that you may have had from before. Oh no, Davy Crocco passed away? Are you serious? Oh my gosh, we're losing so many people, you guys. Mike Morales, please tell me that isn't true, that Davy Crocco passed away. So I want you guys to keep a notepad by your bed and write down each of these things that pop in your mind that help you to solve any issues. It could be the simplest issue. Like, for instance, for me, it was like, how am I going to fix my rain? How am I going to clean my rain gutters? For some reason, in the waking hours is when God speaks to you. And I wonder if that's because we are being still. That's probably the stillest part of your day, would be the waking hours, waking up, where you're the most still. And this is where you hear God. I want you to write down how he's helped you solve different things that you had been worrying about the days and weeks before. Because for me, it pops right into my head. And I take note of it, but I never realized the source, that it was from God. I want you to write these down, and then I want you to come back tomorrow. And for any of you that have an experience of God talking to you in the morning, helping you to solve different things, then we will talk about it. We'll have a discussion about it in the chat. So we'll do a little bit of open chat, and you guys can share your stories of things, no matter how silly they might seem, things that God helped you solve in the waking hours. That means you got to get a good night's sleep. Get a good night's sleep tonight. And try not to think about it too much, other than going to bed with a notepad by your bed, because you need the notepad, because it is it's essential in documenting it fully and correctly. And so I'm excited to see what you guys come up with, and I'll try to do the same. But oh boy, wow. So we need to pray for the people, the lost, the fallen soldiers, so to speak, the true soldiers, right? Fighting for the truth against all odds, against popularity, against everything. For those of you who don't know who Davy Crocco is. I don't know. I can't confirm that he did pass away, but I've interacted with him probably a few years ago, and he came to the channel, and he's a researcher like us, and he's a very good researcher. I haven't seen a researcher like him in a long time. You know, when you're a new researcher, I think the new researchers are a lot more accurate because they're hungry. They're hungry for the research, you know. And as time goes on, we all get a little lazy. I try to keep up the intensity on this channel in terms of the kind of content that we provide you guys. I do a lot of work on this channel every single day, editing, recording, and all that stuff. But if that is the case, we have to pray for him. Gosh, I talked to him not too long ago, so that's really sad. And of course, Mike Morales. I didn't know Mike that well, but he has been a solid over the years. Never ever doubted him. And he fell to lung cancer, I believe, is what happened to him. So pray for his family. And gosh. All right, you guys. Okay, so I love you guys, and we will see you tomorrow with this balloon experiment. Take care and be safe, everybody. Much love.